Good evening everyone, it's Deb from Project Life Deb's Way again. I've got another YouTube tutorial video on the latest photo album layout that I've completed for myself. And I have used the Mintay papers called Mamarazi, and it does have quite a lot of punchy colours with this paper line, and as you can tell, this just shows you some of the colours that they have, with a bit of yellow as well. I did have to add some of my papers from my stash because I found there wasn't enough secondary papers that were quite distinct to give me the toned down effect that I wanted. So I will show you which papers I do in the next video. I also have my cheat sheet once again, which shows you what papers I've done, where I've cut them, and etc., and also my photo mats and etc., and all the things I've used in this layout. This cheat, I will put a copy of this on my webpage and also on my Facebook group, which I'll leave the links in the description box below the video. I did also buy the ephemera pack with this particular line, and they are absolutely beautiful. They've got no white around them, so you can use them as soon as you get them, and it does make the process a lot quicker because you don't have that much fussy cutting to do. As I'm going through the video again, I will actually show you a photograph of each card with the things that I've cut, with the dimensions that I cut my papers, so you can actually do your pause the video and do your cutting as I go through the whole process. So I do hope you enjoy this layout if you're following along, and don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments as well, because it does make a difference if you have any suggestions and things that I can make things better or do differently. So let's get on with making our cards and have some fun. Here's a quick sneak peek at what the layout will look like once you have finished doing the video. I have also included at the very end how I actually do my journaling on my layouts, which of course you don't see because I do it just before I put them into my album. I do actually, what I do is I put a little pocket at the back of the card, and I have a little folio that I make, which you can actually tuck things into or type up or do, and it just means that all your journaling is all hidden away from view, so you don't have writing all over your layout. So when people are flipping through, they don't see that sort of thing, but if they're interested, then they can go and have a look at the stories that are behind your layouts. So let's get on with making our cards. Hi everyone. Today's layout is going to be using some Mintay papers which have just come out, called Mamarazi, I think is how it's pronounced, and it really is quite a bright, vivid paper collection, and it does come with an euphoria pack which has lots of florals, and they are nice because there's no white around the outside of these. They really cut them well, and they have lots of sort of yellow, reds and blues, lots of sort of love hearts and things, and they have a lot of cameras and film strips and that type of thing to go with this collection, which I will actually be using some of those. I have decided I'll be using a brown ink for my edges and using white photo mats. Now this paper line, I won't be using the cutout sheet because I've got plenty of ephemera in the ephemera pack that we bought, so I will be leaving that to one side to do some either cards or things like that. Now these are the sheets that it actually comes with, and this is your cut apart sheet, which you will be using virtually 2 of these because I do a lot of cutting out from these. This one here I will be using this side because I can cut the strips for my layouts and things like that to give some yellow to my layouts. I will be using some of this which has a blue backing. This particular paper line didn't have a lot of colourful backing second side papers, so I will have to go into my stash to get some other papers. This one here I can use some of the yellow because with this one, if you cut, you're going to get some of this black, which I don't want. And I will definitely be using this side of the sheet for one of my backing layering papers, because it definitely is a floral, and it is too florally, I think, for the photographs I've got. My photographs, for once, I've actually got all organized, and as you can tell, it has a bit of a yellow and some of the reds in, so they are the photographs I'll be doing this layout to. They're all 3x4s. Now the paper I have introduced to this is a grey tonings. Now when you can see why I've chosen this, because if you put it up against this, it actually brings the detail out, and it will be quite nice when you have a look at layering things. So I will be using a little tiny bit of this to actually give some oomph to my layout. I also may introduce my good old friendly book paper, and I have found some black words and things in my stash which I think I will introduce to this layout. So there are our papers that we'll be using, and it will be quite outside my normal comfort zone of the type of layouts I do. So let's get on and make some cards. Now on to our first card. As the cutting directions that I put on just before this is the 6x4, and then I have got the mat that I cut here. Now you just need to stick this down. Now I've edged it in just a brown. I've used Distress Oxide, but any brown would do, just very softly around the edge. So that is your 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. So you've just got 1/8 of an inch all the way round. And then the next thing is from my ordinary book pages. I've cut my piece and I've just torn towards me. So if you're tearing a page, to get that nice tear, come towards you and down, and then that will give you a nice tear without all the ripped edges. Now I haven't edged that at all, I'm just putting it in unedged. So I'm just going to stick that straight down, and you will find that you've once again have got that little border all the way around. It just adds, this paper line doesn't have many what I call as spludgy papers, so it just adds a bit of texture. Now all of these have come from the ephemera pack, except for this came out of my stash, so just find yourself some nice words or whatever to use. So I'm going to put the flower on the side here, but I want the camera down in the corner, so I'm going to put my camera on first and just get where everything needs to go. There we go. I might twist that a little bit more so we get a little bit of yellow. So once I've got where I sort of need my placement, it goes up there and there. I'm going to stick these down. There we go. Just sort of get your placement sort of going on before you press everything down. Now I haven't stuck this down because I'm going to tuck this just underneath and over, then I can press down. And then this red flower on its own, I'm going to just pop up, because that corner has nothing, I'm just going to pop that little, to add that pop of red in. Now my camera, I've actually put mounting tape on to give it a bit of rise, and that goes in to the bottom like that, which gives it a lift. Now I think when I'm doing this, I will actually do the here, I'm going to put a little bit of wording sort of on some white card here of the years and etc. that I am doing my layout from. So there is card number 1, completely finished, and it is what I class as an eye candy card. Now with card number 2, once again we have got our plain 6x4 mat here. Then we also have a 5 3/4 by 3 1/4, which comes from this sheet here, cut just here from my mug mat. As you can see, it's got the little red flower, but I'm going to use the back because I want this floral. So that actually has been edged in the brown, and that goes onto your card. So all the cards will have this white border this time. Now for my photo mats, I decided to use the grey sheet to give my photographs that little bit of lift, otherwise they got lost in all of the coloured papers and things. So I've got a true 3x4 photograph here, and I'm putting it on my 3 3/4 by 4 3/4 photo mat right in the centre with that nice border. Now I'll just put some down. Now I've just got one of the yellow flowers from the ephemera pack, which I'm just going to pop underneath up here. So we'll pop that sort of into the center with an equal border all of the way round like that, and just pop it down. And then I'm going to pop that yellow flower to cover up that tripod part. So I'm just going to poke that underneath like that, and then I will put just here, or maybe a strip across here, explaining what this photograph is, some wording which I will do once I do my journaling. This is card 3, which we've got a 6x4 as normal, and I've edged this card here, which came from up here on this sheet. But what I want you to do is turn it around so that the flowers are down the bottom. So we will attach that as normal. To our 3x4 card. so that you have that nice little border all the way around. And I cut from my book page as instructed, and I've just torn just a jagged end there, and that will be going over the block like that, with an even border, just like that. There. Now I have got a true 3x4 photograph which I will be putting onto my photo mat as the cutting instructions. Like so. And then that now you need to put on. If you don't have photographs, just put your mat down and it covers up all of those cameras. Like so. I just found a little black some wording there which I'm going to use, so I'm going to attach that now. Just up the top, like so. And with this I'm going to put this just under the photo mat, like so. I'll just lift that up a little bit, and that was one of the ephemera flowers, and I cut some of it off. I think it was up here, this one here. So I really did cut some of these flowers off and didn't use the full one, so I sort of cut this as I needed my bits. So I'm going to just tuck that underneath. If you haven't got the ephemera pack, there was plenty of other papers, because I didn't cut this paper down, so there's quite a few sort of bits of flowers and things that you could use from that. I also had quite a few flower pieces left from this one here, so there was plenty of things that you could physically cut down. And I think you will also find there were a few flowers here that you could actually use as well for this. But this actually came from the ephemera pack, and I'm going to raise that one up over the top of my photograph. Now if you haven't got your photograph, just make sure when you put your double-sided tape that it's not on the photograph, so that you can slide your photograph underneath like that. And this little one came from one of the, I found a few of the blue flowers. If you have a look here on the cut apart sheet, these blue flowers here, I cut them and cut one of the small pieces, cut it into two, so I would have some blue flowers. So I'm going to attach that one and just pop that just underneath, and there we have number 3 done. Now this is our number 4 card on our layout on the left hand side, and I've done a 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 to go on my white mat, like so. And then I didn't have a true photograph, it just didn't work. So this photograph is 3 1/4 by 3, but you could use your ordinary 4 by 3. And what that needs is just to go onto here, so your photograph would come across slightly. Now this piece here came from the cut aparts here, this one here, and as you can tell I've just cut round, and this little piece here came from on top of the ephemera pieces, which you've got a hand with the thing. So I've cut the hand off and I've cut the phone off and just used that small piece of flower there. Now all this will do, this is going to go here, and then I'm going to pop the flower over the top like that, and a little bit of the blue flower cut from the other cutout that I had left over, just like that. So to do that, we will attach our photograph like that, and as I said, you just got that, you just have to add that 1/4 inch for the 2 sides to get that little border. Now that is going to go on to our mat like so. I then need this put over, and I'm taking that right up to the edge like that, so that I don't go over this bit of the photograph here. So you would have to position yours depending on your photograph, whether it comes lower, higher, and etc. But you have to work with what you've got. I think this actually could have been a Polaroid photograph from many years ago. So I'm going to lay that down right up to the edge there. I'm going to just pop that little bit of flower underneath, and this one I'm going to put some mounting tape up just to lift it up. And there we have card number 4 complete. Now we'll just do our photo cards first, because they're quite easy to do. So you just grab these, which if you've cut your 3 by 4, you can actually do this quite easily by just getting your cutter and just take off, this is a 3 by 4 card, just take off an 1/8 of an inch down here, and then flip it and take off an 1/8 of an inch from this side, and that way you will end up, particularly with these it's quite important, that tiny little border all the way round. And you will find then if you do your photograph and you have your 3 by 4 photograph, as you can tell, that there, fortunately that one wasn't a correct size. Again, let's get one that's correct. This was a true 3 by 4 photograph. Now I've cut that down to 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, so that you can get your lovely little border all the way around. So once again, you just can cut those down to the size of your photograph. And as I said, with this one, I couldn't get the photograph quite right, so I have cut my photograph a little bit smaller, so I have a little bit of extra border, but the border is the same all the way around. So you just have to play with what you have. Sometimes you don't have your true photographs. So I'm just going to pop that mat on here, pop my photograph down, and center that in the center like so. And then with this one, I'm going to do exactly the same. Like so. And they go on to one of the 3x4 cards that you have cut, because you need 4 of those cut. So just pop those on and center them nicely, and once again, that's quite simple. We've got our 2 photo cards done already. Now we'll go on to our first eye candy card, which has got the frame, which I have done. I've inked the edges, distressed the edges, so that I have cut down. So once again, that size is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and you will find that that frame will fit perfectly. That's where Mintay papers are fantastic, will fit directly onto your card. Now here is that piece of ephemera that I have actually cut that side off, and we are going to just pop that onto our frame like so, and just sort of angle it a little bit so that your 2 flowers sort of are, it's a little bit crooked, so one's just slightly over and one's to the edge. And this is my little words I've got, which I'm going to pop up on dimensional tape and just pop that over the top, and there we have that card finished. Our next card has a bit more constructing to do. So I've got my 3x4. I have edged the card here, which is cut to the dimensions I had on the photo before, and you just have that little there. Now this is that little one that I explained, which is 1.5, and that just goes on the side here. I just want to add some of that yellow to go with this card here, so we have the continuation. And I've got a pencil mark where I was working out my cutting lines before when I was planning all this out. Now I've also got a bit of the paper print, which I'm just going, I don't tend to use a tape runner on this because it just rips the pages. So we are going to stick that, and as you guess where this one's going, should fit in over to the edge so that you've got your borders like so. Then I wanted to put this flower, hook it underneath and over so that it tends to raise up like that, and then this one I want to go down the bottom, and then I will put my love hearts like so. So with this one we are going to attach flat. This one here, run a piece of tape like that, and then I'm going to get a foam dot, if I can lay my hands on one, and where that top of that flower pokes over, I'm just going to put a foam dot on. So then I'm going to slide that under and over and get it angled quite at an angle like that. Press it down, and then with your where your foam dot is, just get that like that so it's actually raised. And then we're going to do our love heart up the top and angle that just slightly. And this little one here, I want to get a foam dot, and this one's a little bit too big, so we'd get my little, and we're going to raise that up like so. And because that's got some, which is unusual for these, I'm just going to edge that to get rid of that white so you can't see it. So here we have our 3x4s, then we have our 2 cards like that, and quite quickly, because we're using the ephemera pack and not doing a lot of fussy cutting, we have got our first side of our layout. And as you can tell, I have centered my photographs hickledy-pickledy so they're not all grouped in a group. And as I said, I will go back in once I have done this for my YouTube channel, and I will actually put all my journaling in of what the photographs are and the year and etc. Now we're moving on to our right hand side, which is portrait cards, and once again this is what I sort of call as my eye candy card, not for photographs. Now I have got your 6x4 and your 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. Now this sheet here comes off of this sheet here, so you have already cut some of this piece here, so you should have this piece here. So you actually need to come up 2 1/4 inches from the bottom to cut your 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. So you come in 3 3/4 and up by 5, and that then will give you this card here, just as a cutting direction there. So I've edged that over, so I am going to stick that down. Now just ignore where I've cut. I cut mine a bit smaller when I was doing mine, but that won't matter in the scheme of things. So we'll just pop that down on our 6x4 card, nice and easy. Now I did from the ephemera pack take these 3 things here, and I've put the camera onto foam tape, and I found the word beautiful in the matching sort of grey, which I've put foam tape. So we are going to put our little floral cluster here, so you've got your piece of film there. So we're just going to stick that down And I'm going to take that just over the edge like so. Now the camera's really easy. I don't really like the full block of the tripod there, and so I'm going to put the camera slightly raised on the foam tape there. Just going to square that off. Now the photos I'm going to lay flat like so, and to do that I've got a little bit of my Tombow glue, which is sticking at the moment, so I'm just going to free up the end. There we go. Okay, so we're going to stick that down. And I want that sort of just in that little block. There. Now the beautiful I've got on foam tape. Now you can put this anywhere, but I'm going to put mine here to hide. You could sort of put it here, but I'm putting it up here because I've got that cut line. Just to hide that line a bit. There we go. And card number 6 has been completed. Now this is card number 7. Now unfortunately I didn't have a larger photograph because all of my photographs for this layout were all landscape, so I didn't have a portrait. So I've made this photo mat 3.5 by 3, and I've just cropped my photograph to 3 by 2 3/4, so I've just got that small border so that it will actually fit into here. But if you had a landscape, you would actually use your 3 by 4, and these pieces here you would juggle down in the bottom and just fit them in with your photograph and push your photograph right up to the top. So that's how we can change our layouts up to fit what we have, because in those days photography was very expensive and you only took 1 or 2 photographs, you didn't take lots of them. So we put our little card down here, and I'll put it that way so the cameras sort of are running the right way, and I've edged that in the brown. So that's our 5 3/4 by 4 3/4. Now I did chop some more of my paper, which I gave you the cutting directions for that. So what you do is you cut your square and just tear a big lump so that it sort of comes out towards the half and tear towards you. Now once again, I never ever use a tape roller for these because it will just tear your paper, so I tend to use tape for these. So this one here, I'm going to stick it right into that corner like that. Now my photograph, as I explained, will go up to here, but if you've got a portrait photograph, you would lay that down and then put this right down the bottom like this, and sort of just put your florals in and put your heart down here with maybe memories on your photograph or here. But because mine is a smaller photograph, I'm going to bring mine slightly down to fill up that space. And of course you would have a bigger border if you had a portrait photo going in. So I'm going to put that here. Like so. Now then you just juggle your florals. I'm going to put the white one underneath this here. And I'm going to put memories there, and I'm going to raise this and the heart. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of foam tape on these. So I'll do that now. Now this did have some sticky, so I'm just going to cut that off. There we go. There we have our bits. Okay, so what we do now is you sort of then, once you've got it mapped out, and this little one here, this came from the ephemera pack, but this one here came from the little sheet where we cut the first camera and the flowers out. This is the other bit of the 6x4, so you need to fussy cut that out, which will produce this piece here. So we'll stick these flowers down first and get them nicely into position. Now if you haven't got your photograph, you can actually just tape at the bottom so that your photograph can slip underneath. And as I said, I've raised mine up a bit because I've got a shorter photo. So I'll just pop those in. Then this piece we're going to angle it down like so, so that it is quite straight. And as you can tell, I'm going to reshuffle that just slightly. Because I didn't like having nothing in that middle there, so that is going to be reshuffled a little bit. And I've moved this one slightly across just to make it more pleasing to the eye. And then the little heart I'm going to pop down the bottom here, and the memories. Just raise that up and just pop that there. And very quickly we have that nice card, and as I said, that just the writing underneath from the book page just gives you that little bit of contrast. This is card 8, which you've got your 6x4, and then you're just going to edge this card here, which is your 5 3/4 by 4 3/4. So once again you get that small border, which I've had on all of my cards. Okay, this is the strip that you've cut from here up the top. Now what that's going to do is I just want a little bit of extra color on this card here. So I'm just going to put a strip of this, and I'm going to make sure that this green piece, because I've got yellow with my photograph, is on this outer edge, so that when I put my photograph in, it gets the borders. So we're just going to do this, and this is a true 3x4 photograph. Now, unfortunately with these photographs, I've photoshopped them as much as I could, but they were very, very blurry because I used one of the old style instant cameras, which of course aren't as good as today's cameras. So I used to get some terrible photographs, but it's the best I could do. So then these flowers down the bottom, I'm just going to pop here, like so, one in the corner and one over the other side, and I did find a word, what a day. So I'm just going to stick those flat. Sort of take them off the card a bit. And the what a day, I'll just trim that little bit of white off. I am going to put a tiny bit of foam tape on that to raise that up. I'm going to pop that right in the middle. There. Get a little bit more foam tape. And there we have card 8. Our next card has got your typical 6x4. Now this one here has come from here. So you sort of need to measure in 1.5 inches to get your cut line for this particular card, because I want the floral that's down in the bottom. So here is the floral down in the bottom. So we're just going to stick that card on, and I've edged it in the brown. So we're going to face it this way. Now once again, I only have a smaller photograph, so I've cut my photograph because there were other people here that I didn't want in my photograph. So I've just cut this and I've made it as big because this photograph was very grainy. So if I made it any bigger, it'd get too pixelated, so I had to make it this size. Whereas you would probably use a 3x4 portrait, or make your photograph slightly wider and square, like a Instagram photograph if you wanted. So what I've done here, I have cut this piece here and I've just torn, this is the 2.5 inches across here, and I've just torn straight down to the 3 inches down the bottom, and I'm going to put that directly up in that corner to actually fill in that space. If you had a true 3x4, you probably wouldn't need this piece of paper, but I sort of thought that spot looked a bit dead and it needed a little something. So I've just popped that piece of paper, which I'm putting straight up into the, right up into that corner, and then I will pop my photograph with an even border all the way around. Like so. Now this camera piece here was from this top piece here that we cut, and that is going over the side here. So we've still got some florals there, and then I'm going to pop this underneath. Like so. So this is all going to be flat. I'm having nothing raised here. So we're going to pop this down into the corner. the you and me I'm going to tuck under the camera and over under the camera and over the flower. Like so. Now we're going to do our little 3x4 cards, which are landscape. And once again, as normal, I've got my 2 photographs here. So I've got my 3x4 white. I did my photo mat 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. So it just has that tiny little border all round. So we'll just attach that to our card. And then we'll attach our photograph. And you'll end up with your 2 photographs quite easily done, ready to put into our album. Okay, our first eye candy card, I have my 3x4, and I'll bring everything down because it's a bit awkward trying to fit these all onto one page. So I'll bring these down. So you have got your 3x4 here. Then I have my 3 1/4 by 2 3/4, which I am going to just do my edging as I've done with all the others, but just very softly, just to make them pop, and that goes down onto your card. So I'll just attach that onto the white, and then just cut any strip that you can find with this. Mine is 2 3/4 by 2 from any of your card anywhere, and that is just going to go here on this card. So I in actual fact need just a smidgen taken off that card. I'm just going to cut a tiny bit off so that it actually fits with a little bit of a border around. So there we have our little bit of card there, so we'll attach that as well and just pop that on there. Now I did find a saying here, it's not what we have in life but who we have in our life that matters, and I'm going to put that on a little bit of the grey matting that I had left over that I hadn't cut, just to give it a bit more rise. So I'm going to put that on there straight away. Like that, and I am going to put a bit of foam tape on this saying to give it a bit more pop. So we just put our foam tape onto that, and I found 3 lots of different flowers. I think looking at these, this one came from one of the sheets. I just found some excess blue flowers, and these came from the ephemera pack. Now what I'm going to do here is just arrange these under and over, until I get what I want. Okay, so we'll stick this down the bottom. I'm going to bring that aligned so this drops a bit lower. I will put my saying in before I put my flowers in, because they can actually be tucked up underneath this saying. Another reason for giving this a bit of height. I'm sort of going to center that, and then these I'm going to just poke underneath that saying. And then this one I'm going to tuck underneath there. There we have 3 of our cards done. Now our next card, the book page, I had the 2 and 3, 2.5 acrossways, the 1 3/4 across the top. So this part here was 2.5. So once again you get that border. And this cutout came from the cut apart sheet, a 3x4, which then I cut down to 3 3/4. Yep, by 2 3/4. There's the measurements there. 3 1/4 by 2 3/4. Cut down. So what we need to do once again is just give that a quick distress around the edges so that it matches up with all the rest of our cards, and lay it crossways. Now because this is a landscape card, I've had to sort of cover this lip, but I wanted that square. So what I've done here, I have cut this one, has come from, by the looks of this, from here. I've cut that from there and cut that yellow flower off, which is here. So that actually was sitting like that. So I've cut that bit off, and it came from this sheet here that you've got left. So what I want to do is I want this to go down the bottom to sort of cover this bit up here, and then the camera that came from the pack is going to go over the top, and then I'm going to put this yellow flower here which covers this bit up. But before I do that, I wanted a bit more texture, so I'm going to leave a border with this one. So we are going to just stick this down. Now on these what I class as eye candy cards, I tend to put the date of when this layout was between, or if it was on holidays where we were, and etc. So it gives you a clue. As soon as you look at the layout, you sort of know what it's going to be about. See, I would actually put my date here just at the top. I would put like 1979 or whatever date this was up the top here. And as you know, with my journaling, I tend to do my journaling and also label my photographs. I go onto my computer and I do all my generated little words and things that are put onto my photographs to explain what they are. I also do a little file folder card which I type up with all the sayings and everything else, and I make a little file folder at the back where my explanation of everything is, so you can't actually see it on my layout. Maybe with this video, because it hasn't run as long, I will show you what I mean. So we're going to put our camera there, a little one here, like so. So there we have our cards there, like so. Now, to explain how I do my journaling, I don't particularly like to have journaling all over my layouts. I prefer hidden journaling, and it's quite easy to do because most of the plastic folders, they always have, particularly with these, an opening at the top here, so you can insert your cards like that. So it's quite easily to put journaling spots behind. So what I tend to do, so here's my card. I actually just cut a 6x4 card from any of my scrap paper, it doesn't matter, and then I put my 1/4 inch tape. Now what I do here at the bottom is I just cut away so you've got a little triangle there. So then put your tape in. Now if you were doing this on 2 different sides, you always try to sort of get them to alternate different pockets, so that you don't get too much bulk, because if you kept putting them in the same spot, you'll get a very bulky spot. So what you do now is you lay, it's got a 1/4 inch fold on each side, so lay your little card in the middle like that at the back of your card, like that, and that will give you a really nice little pocket. And then I make myself a little tiny folio, which you can actually use some of the papers, so that when you put it in, you've got some of your paper behind, and then that goes in to that little pocket behind, and it will just poke out enough so that when you put that in the plastic folder, it sits there. And then what I tend to do is I do a little word like info here, so that people know that it's there and you can pull it out. Now you can do 1 single card. I like to do little folios because it gives you plenty of journaling spots, and also too, if you've been traveling, you can actually put memorabilia in here, and it won't go anywhere. So it just sits in the back like that. And there you have all of your journaling hidden, so when people go and have a look at you, if they want to have a look at the journaling, they can open up the inside and just read. If you had 1 card, it would just be on here, and you can either write it or you can type it up on your computer and attach it to that folio. So that's just an easy way of getting extra information into your pockets.